Pocket FM.
To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.
I am a queen, but my husband betrayed me. King Aldric loved me, married me before the gods. I stood beside him through war and winter. But within a few years, he gave his heart to another, and I ceased to exist for him. He only looked at his new woman as if she'd woven a spell around his soul. And who knows, perhaps she had. He would have burned kingdoms just to see her smile. So I stepped back. For the sake of the realm, for what we once were. I told myself it was my fate, that my story had ended. Until I met the hawk. Only, he wasn't just a hawk. He was a king cloaked in feathers and fury, with magic older than Aldric's crown, and eyes that saw me. Truly saw me. What's wrong? What's going on? I was gripped with a cold and certain dread the moment I returned to my chambers. My ladies-in-waiting were too nervous to speak to me. The king went hunting my lady. Before she finished, I felt my veins turn to ice. What happened? Did something happen to Aldric? Just tell me he is all right? The king is unharmed, Your Highness, another one of the ladies, Laura replied hurriedly. Oh, thank God, but if the king is not hurt, why do you all look so upset? King Aldric brought something back to the palace, a woman, he carried her, limp in his arms, back to the palace. We guess she hurt her leg, Lady Eliza murmured. He brought back what? A woman? My voice trembled over the last word. Yes, Your Highness, and we are sure she was not a lady, she seemed of lowly birth. Still, King Aldric ordered us to wash that dirty creature. I felt my frown deepen into a scowl. He asked my ladies-in-waiting to wash the filth from a tramp he found in the woods. What was so special about this girl? My lady, Eliza began tentatively. Yes, what is it? I raised an eyebrow. She wasn't just any woman, Your Highness, she was quite beautiful. At first, she was so filthy that I thought I was imagining it. However, after we had cleansed her wounds and removed the filth, she really was quite stunning, Your Majesty. This new development sent a cold shudder through my body. How stunning. She looked a bit like the Duchess of Betha, I might say. Or rather, the way the Duchess looked in her youth. The Duchess of Betha? The woman whose beauty has started wars? The most beautiful woman in all of the realms? You can't be serious. Of course, there is no comparison to your beauty, Your Majesty. Another lady-in-waiting squeaked from the back of the group. I know they wanted to calm my dismay, and to be honest, I was fairly good-looking, but the Duchess of Betha was incomparable, and if this new woman was anything like her, no man would be able to resist her. As a queen, I am not allowed to show my emotions. So, I just stood up and went back to my chamber without saying a word. Next morning, when I emerged from my bedchamber, I heard my ladies still chattering amongst themselves in whispered tones. I heard the filthy tramp is a runaway slave. She got onto the hunting ground while she was fleeing her masters. If she really is a slave, she should be sent back immediately. How embarrassing is it for the palace that the king has taken her in? I heard he even tended to her wound personally. Can you imagine the king, alone with a woman like that, tending to her bare flesh? My heart sank at those words. This was no idle gossip. In my heart, I knew that this was the truth. Straightening my back, I did my best to hold back my emotions. But I finally broke into tears when Eliza saw me listening to all of it. My queen, we are sorry you had to hear this, but trust me, it will be fine. The king will soon get tired of his new plaything. Everything will be fine. Oh, I'm fine, Eliza. Really. After all, kings do such things and ours was an arranged marriage. I tried to assure her, but my voice still trembled. I tried to fake another smile, but this time I broke down entirely. Eliza, I thought we loved each other. Oh, Eliza, how could Aldric do this to me? Eliza didn't say anything. She just hugged me as I cried. I needed a hug more than ever. Just then, the deputy commander of the knights and my loyal bodyguard, Sir Artemis, interrupted us. Your Highness, the winter solstice ball preparations begin today. I am here to take orders. I just hate being a queen right now. My whole world is falling apart and I can't even cry in peace. My morning had already been filled with diplomatic meetings around the upcoming greatest event of the year, the winter solstice ball, and a barrage of rumors about my marriage. I quickly wiped my tears and turned to Sir Artemis, though I was not ready yet. Tapping Sir Artemis on the shoulder, I whispered that I needed a moment in the gardens. He nodded his understanding, and out we went. Artemis, I began as we rounded the garden, which of your men do you recommend to supervise the winter solstice ball? But before Artemis could respond, He froze. "Artemis? What is it?" I asked. He placed a silent finger to his lips, instructing me to be quiet. Confused, I strained even further to listen. That was when the sounds came to me more clearly, a soft moan, whispered nothings, and heavy breathing. Now my cheeks pinked at the unmistakable sound of lovemaking. Though the threat to life and limb may have passed, Artemis was not best pleased to have my honor so sullied. He stepped forward, his voice booming in the frosty air. "Who is it? Out of there this instant! These are the Queen's sacred gardens, and I'll not have you defiling them in her presence." "Show yourselves," Artemis demanded. One of the two dashed off and away from us, but the other, the woman, stepped out to face us. As my steely eyes connected with the woman's deep blue eyes, I realized that this could be her. Then, I saw the bandage on her leg. Yes, it was her. The woman Aldrich carried in his arms from the hunting grounds. Oh no. This was my husband's concubine. For a moment, I stood there, frozen to the spot as a cold dread washed over me. All of the rumors had been true. My husband's concubine was without a doubt the most stunning woman I had ever laid eyes on. I knew then that she was going to bring ruin to my life and to my empire. But wait, had that been Aldrich with her just now? Had he run off, leaving her to fend for herself? Or had that been another man that this harlot had entrapped? I felt a hand fall on my shoulder and realized that it was Sir Artemis, mercifully trying to shake me from my trance. "My lady?" he began delicately. "Shall we—" He was right. I owed her nothing. All I had to do was walk away, but still my gaze remained fixed on the mesmerizing young woman, my rival, my enemy. But the shameless thing took advantage of my disorientation. Taking a wavering step forward on her injured leg, the woman held out her hand to me. "Pleased to meet you, miss. My name is Rose," she said in a voice as soft as a lullaby. "Have you no manners? This is Her Majesty the Queen, you idiot child," Artemis scolded. Rose's eyes widened. "But what? No, I know the Queen, Your Majesty, I am living in the Eastern Palace by the kindness of His Majesty the King," she continued, taking another tentative step forward. "I'm Rose." I paled at her implication. We were sharing the same man. It was time to put this woman in her place. "So, you're the slave." I kept my voice icy. No, Your Majesty. I'm no such thing." I saw the ladies Eliza and Laura rushing to our location. "Your Majesty!" Laura gasped. "What's going on? Who is this?" I opened my mouth to answer, but Rose spoke over me. "The Queen and I are just getting acquainted. I've been desperate to meet her. I'm Rose." As she spoke, extending her hand once again to my ladies-in-waiting, Lady Laura wasn't quite happy. From the corner of my eye, I saw her take a step forward towards Rose. "You common little wench, there is no need for you to get acquainted with the Queen. Who are you to act so friendly towards her? You sold your body to the king. That doesn't mean she owes you anything. The Queen would never say it to you herself, but I will. You are nothing but a common filthy whore." "What do you mean, whore?" A low male voice growled behind me. Dread filled my stomach as I slowly turned around. It was Aldrich. The king himself had returned to save this whore's honor? What? His face was dark with rage. He glared at Lady Laura. I'm so sorry, Your Majesty," Laura began, the color draining from her face. "I was just protecting Queen Bronwyn's honor." Laura was not one to apologize easily, even when she had done wrong. But insulting the object of Aldrich's affection was an unparalleled offense. Laura and Countess Eliza quickly dipped into deep curtsies before the king. I, however, stood my ground. As if sensing my eyes on him, Aldrich turned to me. "And Bronwyn, I thought better of you than to involve yourself in such idle gossip." "Idle gossip? Is that what you're calling your seduction behind the hedge?" I glared at him. The last thing I wanted was to apologize as if I were afraid of him. After all, he was the one who had taken a concubine. He should be getting down on his knees and apologizing to me. The tension simmered between us. But our standoff was broken by the sound of soft whimperings. I looked up and saw that Rose's eyes were glimmering with tears. She was trying, but struggling, to control her emotions. To my horror, Aldrich went right to her and took her hand. "Don't cry, sweet one," he cooed. But despite his attempt to soothe her, tears began to stream down her face, staining her pink cheeks. I couldn't stand the sight of her small hand in his. Even worse, I hated the way he gently wiped her silent tears away. something he had never done for me with such care. I was appalled and hurt by the sight. He cared about this woman, and much as I hated to admit it, it was growing painful for me to watch. I wouldn't be able to prevent Aldrich from having a concubine, but that didn't mean I had to witness the two of them together. Clearly, you two need a moment alone, I hissed. Having had more than enough, I turned to address Artemis and my ladies-in-waiting. Shall we head back to the conference? Unlike some senior royals, I have duties to attend to. My entourage quickly followed after me as I began to walk away, but we didn't get far before Aldrich's voice rang through the garden. Everyone, stop! I turned around, arching an eyebrow, assuming he meant to have further words with me. But instead he raised a finger and pointed it at Lady Laura. Leave this lady behind. I felt my cheeks flush with anger. And why would I do that? Aldrich clenched his jaw. I said, leave her. What do you mean, leave her? She is my lady-in-waiting, and I will do no such thing until I know your purpose. I stood against the king, the tension between us simmering in the icy rose garden. Next to me, Laura's complexion had turned pale. Just what do you plan on doing with her? I pressed. That woman and her foul mouth deserve to be punished. Aldrich, you know as well as I do, that would publicly disgrace her and me in society, and for what? Speaking the truth, that new woman of yours is a whore. Aldrich's face purpled with anger, and he took a threatening step towards me, but he got no farther. Sir Artemis placed himself squarely between me and the king. Your Highness, the old knight began, his voice battle-hardened. I wouldn't advise any rash action. You'll do well to remember my oath to the queen. Aldrich stared down the knight, but even he knew better than to test Artemis's loyalty to me. Instead, he took a frustrated step backwards and ran a rough hand through his hair while he tried to subdue his anger. Meanwhile, my mind spun. All this is over. Her? This woman was neither noble nor even an official concubine. The only title she held was that of a runaway slave and the king's prostitute. But if Aldrich was this enraged over a simple insult, what lengths would he go to protect her from true threats? Would he ruin our marriage? Would he risk our empire? At that moment, my gaze met the king's, and I could suddenly see the darkness within his eyes. I had my answer. My husband would raise continence for this woman. She may be your lady-in-waiting, Bronwyn, Aldrich spat, but she is also my subject, and her behavior is inexcusable. How dare she speak to another person like that? Lady Laura, I sentence you to the dungeon for 3 days, on meals of only hard bread and water. Laura's face whitened, and Eliza let out a small gasp of distress. For my part, I felt as though I had been plunged into icy waters. The dungeons were for thieves and murderers, not outspoken ladies-in-waiting. Though my knees trembled, I stepped forward to challenge my husband. That is too far, Your Majesty. Perhaps your decision could be more fully formed with my counsel. 5 days, then. I need no counsel. Aldrich raged over me. I felt my heart sink. Searching Aldrich's face, I realized that I barely recognized the man whom I loved. Beside me, Laura bowed her head and stepped forward before I could speak another word. I accept the punishment, Your Majesty. While I felt the bitterness of defeat, I saw in Aldrich's eyes the gleam of victory. So this is what we have become, opponents in a twisted game of hearts. Crushed, I gritted my teeth and turned away. The atmosphere of rumor and gossip had been so thick in the castle that I couldn't wait to get out of doors. I went to the gardens of the Western Palace. The gardens of the Western Palace were renowned across the realm, boasting divine flowers, priceless statues, and majestic trees soaring well into the sky. It was one of my favorite places to stroll and soothe my mind. But there was something new in the garden today, something I had never seen there, or anywhere else before. On a sturdy branch of juniper, perched an exotic and handsome bird, hawk-like and of a decent size, preening its array of feathers. What a strange creature, I muttered to myself. Glancing over my shoulder, I saw that my ladies-in-waiting hadn't noticed it yet. They were too busy chattering about Aldrich and Rose. I was somehow glad that they were distracted, as it meant the mysterious creature could be mine and mine alone for a few moments longer. Careful not to make any sudden movements, I slowly approached the bird. It was an alert little thing, instantly aware of me, and yet it showed no fear. Emboldened by this, I reached out my hand. The bird cocked its head, but quickly hopped on. It wasn't long before my ladies noticed. What a pretty bird! Where did it come from? It's so fearless. Even as the ladies surrounded us, the bird didn't startle. I risked stroking the curve of its head, certain it was going to fly off, but to my delight, it didn't. That was when I noticed a small scroll of parchment tied to its leg with a silk ribbon. Gently, I tugged the knot loose and unfurled the paper. It was a handwritten note. The sight of you sets a fire in my soul. It pains and tortures me, yet I cannot resist it. I cannot resist you. A nervous laugh escaped my lips, followed by a chorus of giggles from my ladies-in-waiting. "Who do you suppose that was meant for?" one of them asked. "For the Queen, of course," scolded another. "The bird found her, didn't it?" Countess Eliza, noticing the blush on my cheeks, sidled up to me. "Will you write back, Your Majesty?" I hesitated for a moment, suddenly unsure about impropriety, but the fizz of electricity across my skin enticed me to engage in this little game. I got the quill and paper, settled myself on a nearby bench, and tried to compose my reply. My ladies hovered around me, eager to see what I would write. One who plays with fire often gets burned. I tied my note onto its leg. The bird nuzzled its beak against my hand before flying away. We had spent a long and pleasurable afternoon walking in the gardens and chattering about the bird, however, when my ladies-in-waiting and I returned to my apartments, we found one of Aldrich's secretaries waiting for us. He looked displeased. "Yes? What is it?" I asked. "The king has requested your presence, Your Majesty." "All right, I will just change and then—" "No, Your Majesty, you are already late." With that one unfriendly statement, I felt all the happiness of my time with the handsome bird drain away, and judging by the expressions on my ladies' faces, they felt the same. This had to be about Rose. I sighed and replied, "Very well. Lead the way." Before I knew it, I found myself being admitted into Aldrich's darkened library. "I've been waiting for an hour," he grumbled. "Where were you? Am I required to account for my whereabouts at all times now?" It was a simple question that demands a simple answer. His tone was brusque. He didn't sound like himself. I quickly realized I had better be truthful. I was in the gardens with my ladies-in-waiting. I needed some air. Satisfied that I was obedient once more, Aldrich launched into the real topic he wanted to discuss. "I'm planning on giving Miss Rose a lady-in-waiting, maybe two." "So?" I asked. "So, wife, I charge you with this task. You must find a lady-in-waiting for Rose." Aldrich, that would be tantamount to me serving her. Yes, it would. And that is why you must do it. How could my own husband do this to me?" I felt my heart sinking as I returned to my chambers. Nonsense. Why should the queen provide a lady-in-waiting for the concubine? My own ladies were irate. "Are you really going to find her a lady-in-waiting?" I sighed. I wish I could say no. But the king gave me a direct order, and as much as I dislike it, loathe it, the hierarchy still puts his wishes above mine. A lady-in-waiting was usually of similar or lower rank than the noblewoman she was serving, but Rose was not a noble at all. My mind spun. Maybe, just maybe, in this case it might be appropriate to find a lady amongst the fallen or lower nobles. "Viscountess, please send an invitation for tea in the gardens to all of the young ladies and women in the capital. Anyone of even remotely noble birth should be contacted. I'll need to settle this matter as soon as possible, so that the king doesn't think I am sabotaging his lover any further. We'll just have to hope that someone nearby accepts the position." Viscountess Verdi nodded and immediately left my chambers to execute my wishes. Silently, I said a little prayer to myself in the hopes that this would all be over quickly, else I was sure things would soon turn from bad to worse. Although only noble women were invited, the number of guests exceeded my expectations. Nonetheless, I was pleased, as I was certain the extra ladies in attendance would surely make my assigned search more likely to be successful. And once this uncomfortable task was over with, I could go back to pretending that Rose didn't exist, and I could stop picturing her and Aldrich together. My dearest subjects, thank you for attending to me today. I am grateful for your response to my summons, and I hope that the food, drink, and warmth of the palace is making for a pleasurable winter's day. However, I must admit that I had a certain motive for inviting you all here. His Majesty the King has asked me to provide a lady-in-waiting for his concubine, Miss Rose. The words stuck in my throat, and for a moment I could no longer speak. Then with a forced smile, I raised my head and continued. This is all to be done in a rush. Indeed, this task must be completed before the forthcoming winter solstice. I ask you, is there anyone amongst you or anyone of your acquaintance who would want to be a companion for Miss Rose? To teach her and guide her in the ways of the aristocracy? I was dismayed to find that I was met by silence, broken only by the nervous shuffling of their silk slippers upon the closely clipped grass. As the gravity of my request sank in, the women and young ladies exchanged glances, subtly shaking their heads at one another. Still, I waited. Finally, one amongst them stepped forward. "Yes?" I said. "Your Majesty, my name is Lady Alice. I am a friend of Lady Laura's." I nodded in recognition of her title and friendship, then waited for her to continue. "Your Majesty, if you would, I want to help you, but please don't tell the king what I'm about to say." "All right," I said somewhat reluctantly. "You have my word. You may speak freely, Lady Alice. It's rumored that this Miss Rose is a runaway slave. If she was just a commoner, then perhaps someone may have wanted to serve her. But if the rumors are true, Your Highness, everyone is reluctant." The ladies in attendance nodded, muttering in agreement of this shared rumor and consequences. Lady Alice cleared her throat and continued. "Whoever became a lady-in-waiting for a runaway slave would not be able to show their face in decent society, Your Majesty. Nor would their family. In truth, Your Highness, to serve as Miss Rose's lady-in-waiting wouldn't be an honor, but a punishment." I was astonished at the speed with which the gossip had spread throughout society. How had it gone beyond the palace walls? However, it didn't matter. The damage was done. Each and every one of the noble women before me stood with hesitation in their eyes, and they were all waiting for me to either confirm or deny the rumor. In truth, I didn't know what was hearsay and what was fact. "She's nothing but a commoner," I announced to the women, mirroring Aldrich's answer. "The king found her while he was out hunting. She was injured. Her leg caught in a trap meant for some fell beast. Out of kindness, the king brought her back to the palace to be healed and cared for. Things obviously progressed between them after that." I felt the heat rise in my cheeks and desperately hoped that the guests didn't notice. Looking out at them, I saw the ladies in attendance nodding. Politely, but I knew they didn't believe a word I said, because despite their overt acceptance of my explanation, not a single one of them stepped forward. I opened my mouth to plead with them once more, fearing what Aldrich would think of me if I failed at this latest task for his lover. But I never got the chance. A chorus of surprised yelps and hiccups of consternation erupted from the farthest reaches of the crowd, interrupting me. I was worried, and I craned my neck to see. With one final push past Lady Alice, the source of the upset revealed itself. Rose. She had clearly overheard all that had transpired moments before. Coming to a stop before me, Rose glared with cold, dark eyes, then turned to the assembled noblewomen. "You know nothing of me," she spat, slurring her words, "and I wouldn't allow any of you to serve me, even if you begged. I have the king's love and attention, and that is more than any of you will ever have. Even her." With a shaking finger, Rose pointed directly at me. She opened her mouth to say more, but words failed her. Choked by her emotions, and within a hair's breadth of being overwhelmed by them, Rose instead gathered up her skirts, held her chin high, and marched out of the gardens. As expected, King Aldrich summoned me right after. "One of my knights told me that you invited all the noble women of the capital to the Western Palace today, and that you feasted on cakes and gossiped for hours." "Yes, I did. I called on all the women and young ladies of the capital not merely to feast, but to ask them directly to serve your concubine. However, I regret to inform you that not one offered to serve." I knew this answer would upset Aldrich. When he spoke again, his voice was a quiet threat. "Is that all you have to report? What else is there?" I cannot fathom a single possible reason that each and every one of the women and young ladies of the capital could have to deny such service to Miss Rose. Did you say anything in your invitation to the noble women that may have swayed their opinion of Miss Rose? For it certainly seems strange to me that each and every one of them would refuse such an honorable post. Of course not. How could I? I don't know a thing about your concubine, and even if I did, do you really think I would put it in an invitation to tea? Come to the palace. See the tramp that my husband has taken for a lover? Faster than I thought possible, Aldrich's anger crested, and he rushed me, pinning me to the wall. But the moment he realized he had me trapped, he softened, though his breath still came heavy against my skin. "Feel free to check the invitations for yourself, Your Majesty, and you'll find they simply state the time and place for sandwiches and cakes." Aldrich wasn't listening. His eyes flickered to my lips. But instead of closing the gap between us, He pushed himself away from me and shouted as he left. "I do not trust you with Rose. I will find her a lady-in-waiting myself." I was really shocked at the way my husband was changing, but there was nothing much I could do. That girl Rose seemed to know some magic. Nothing was working on my husband except her charm. Was she really a witch, as my ladies-in-waiting suspected? I was literally shaking as I left the king's chambers. The day was moody and dark. Even so, after a few turns around the expansive gardens, all thoughts of Rose had kind of left my mind. That was when I felt a flutter just above my head, powerful enough to ruffle my jet-black hair. The bird! My heart leapt at the sight. I had been certain I would never see the creature again, and the delight at having been proved wrong was something else. There was another note tied to it. Carefully, I untied the ribbon-wrapped parchment secured to its leg, and read the note in silence. It said, "Those who play with fire may be likely to get burned, but at times, isn't some pain for the sake of pleasure worth the price?" I took a seat on the edge of a nearby fountain and composed my reply. "And do you take your pleasures upon no one in particular? For these letters remain nameless, as do I. Since you burn for me, let us become acquainted. I'll begin with a simple question. What is the bird's name?" I carefully rolled the parchment and tied the note to the bird's leg once more. As I watched the midnight hawk take wing amongst the mist, I mused on my response. I had ended my note with a question. Would the person who received the letter reply to me again? I crossed my fingers that they would. It wasn't long after I returned to the palace that my reprieve from any thoughts of Rose came to an end, but to my surprise, someone was waiting for me there. "Bronwyn, I must speak with you." I looked up from my work to find Aldrich standing above me. "Oh no, this can't be about her again," I complained. Aldrich instead lowered his eyes on me. "Yes, Brownin, it is about her. And her name is Rose. Remember that. Whatever happened now, please can't you solve the concubine's problems on your own? I want nothing to do with her." The comment escaped my mouth before I had a chance to think better of it, and I immediately wished I had held my tongue, for the atmosphere in the room darkened in an instant. With a heavy sigh meant to subdue his growing frustration, Aldrich pushed back and held my gaze. "Are you the source of the rumor? What rumor?" "Come now, Bronwyn. We've known each other for a long time. Don't play dumb with me. You are far too intelligent for that. Did you spread the rumor that Rose is a runaway slave?" "Oh, please, not that story again, Aldrich," I scoffed. "Don't try to act, Brownin. You know I found ladies-in-waiting for Rose. But not only do Rose's new ladies-in-waiting treat her poorly, but they don't even act as they should. All because of the rumors you spread. Oh, congratulations you found them. But Aldrich, I have no control, nor interest in how the concubine's ladies act or do not act. I don't know why you came to me with this. I have nothing to do with her. I suggest you ask her ladies. I did ask them, but they said they heard rumors that Rose was a runaway slave, and they didn't want to serve a runaway slave." They said they heard rumors, not that I said to them. Are you blaming me for rumors to which you don't know the source? Bronwyn, there isn't anyone else but you who could benefit from such whispers. Oh, please, tell me, Aldrich, what could I possibly gain? The king stared at me, then growled his next words. Rose is your romantic rival. Isn't it obvious you are the only one interested in making her life difficult? Aldrich's accusation was as one-sided as it was insulting. It took all my strength to steady my breath and keep my composure. Listen, King Aldrich, your concubine is no rival to me, Bronwyn. He shouted, but I was in no mood to stop. I continued. No, King Aldrich. You do not get to tell me how to think or feel. You don't know what's going on inside my head. But if I must explain the inner workings of a feminine mind to you, here it is. You may be my husband and you may have been my lover, but if you no longer choose me, then I'm not going to stand here and beg. So how can she be a threat to me if I refuse to compete? Aldrich's expression wavered. Seeing him weakening, I took the opportunity to state my intentions once and for all. The concubine is precious to you, while I, evidently, am just like everyone else. Despite that, I will do my duties. I will act as queen. I will serve my people. However, I am tired of this topic, so let me say it again, Your Majesty, once and for all. Just do not involve me with your lover. With that, I whirled around and saw myself out, leaving the king slack-jawed and silenced. I marched through the palace, keeping my head down, afraid that someone would see my brimming tears. I needed to be away from everyone. I needed to be alone. Breaking into a run, I made for a small area with a secluded nest chair. It was my secret comfort place, where no one ever went, not even my ladies-in-waiting, and buried myself inside. That was when I heard a piercing cry. Ducking back into the safety of my hideaway, I looked down to locate the source of the sound. The bird. I emerged from my nest, just as eager to see the creature again as it appeared to see me. Somehow this bird had become the source of my strength and happiness in all these gloomy days. It landed on my arms straight away and blinked its huge eyes. "Oh, you came to see me." I smiled. The bird seemed to bob its head in agreement. Then it indicated its leg, where I found another note. I unfurled it to find the now familiar writing, sweeping and strong. "Does the bird need a name? You can give it one if you like," it read. I sat back and studied my feathered friend, heavy upon my arm. "Of course you need a name. Everyone needs a name." The bird looked back at me, and I swore that its gaze felt more penetrating and soothing than usual. Did it really know that I was feeling depressed? Well, I've spent enough time on self-pity. It was time to pick myself up. I found the bird looking at me with reassuring eyes. "Thank you, little one." I kissed its head in gratitude. The bird gazed up at me, registering my smile, then took the note in its beak and dropped it in my lap. Did it want a reply? I thought carefully about a good name. The bird's name is Majesty. I wrote in my reply. Then I tied the note to the hawk's leg, gently hugged it, and released it into the sky. As I watched it fly away, I realized that I felt better, comforted. I couldn't say why, but it did. And so I practiced my smile once more and returned to the palace.
Skimming over the rooftops of the capital, the hawk flew beyond the boundaries of the city and straight to a nearby mountain. Circling for a moment, it appeared to be checking that it hadn't been followed. Then, in a flash of golden light, the bird transformed into a man. He was handsome, regal, strong in body, and seemingly quick of mind. He was also annoyed. "Calling a male Majesty," he grumbled to himself. At the sudden appearance of a man, the pigeons nearby flapped and squawked, taking off in a rush. However, one black bird, another hawk in a nearby tree, seemed curious. Hopping down, that bird also erupted into a flash of light and transformed into a man. He was more than annoyed. "You went to see her again, didn't you? You were supposed to be scouting." "Don't be ridiculous. I have been scouting." For beautiful women, the tension between the two crackled in the air. "You don't believe me?" the first man challenged the other. "Of course I do, Your Highness, on my word. But please, be careful and be mindful of your actions. Remember, you are the heir to the Celestial Isles. I can't let anything happen to you."
It seemed that I had dropped my handkerchief the other day when I had been writing my note. I would have left it, but that handkerchief was a favorite of mine. Aldrich had gifted it to me in simpler times, and I was eager to retrieve it. I supposed I wanted to preserve something of our marriage, even if it was just a bit of cloth. When I returned to the gardens next morning, to my surprise, I saw the concubine sitting in my precious nest chair, and she was talking to her maids. Seems like the queen's secret place. Well, it will all be mine one day. I was infuriated at her words as I stepped in front of them. Rose jumped to her feet at the sight of me, but I was fixated on the nest chair and my handkerchief, which Rose had evidently used to sit on. When she registered the direction of my gaze and my hurt, she spoke hurriedly. "My apologies, Your Majesty. The chair was wet and I thought the handkerchief was trash. Don't be foolish. The handkerchief has my emblem embroidered on it. You knew very well that it wasn't trash, and you are sitting in my chair." Rose flinched at my curt tone, but I didn't care. "Give me the handkerchief." Rose reached under her purse behind for it and handed it back to me. I cringed to feel the heat of her still trapped within the cloth. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty, I didn't know." Rose stood and came towards me. "Don't play the fool with me, girl. These two maids may believe that you are sweet and innocent, but I can see the calculations behind your eyes, the ambition. You knew what you were doing all along. But it doesn't matter what I believe. What does matter is that you follow the rules. The first of which is this. Do not come to the Western Palace anymore. It is not your place. It is mine. No good will come from us seeing each other. But I want to be friends with Her Majesty." Oh, not this again. But my reproach caught on my tongue as Rose burst into tears. Her crying face was akin to a spell. I felt some sort of pity towards her, but I quickly shook my head, releasing myself of her dark, bewitching magic. "You can be friends with the next concubine," I retorted. Rose sniffled and looked up at me aghast. The next concubine? Why, yes. Now that the king has taken one, why would he stop there? He's sure to bring in another concubine after you. He needs to slake his lust after all. Rose turned pale, her pride wounded, and her vision of her future wavering. She stared at me for a moment longer before picking up her skirts and running from the gardens, followed closely by her maids. She headed straight to the king. What's wrong? Why are you crying? My king, when you tire of me, will you bring in another woman as your new concubine? Why would you think such a thing? Who have you been speaking to? The queen. Aldrich felt a cold wash of dread come over him. Carefully, he disentangled himself from Rose and took a step back. Will you, my lord? Will you love another woman besides me? Your Majesty. Will you betray me? Rose stared wildly at him with her doe-like eyes, searching. Just looking at her, Aldrich knew the answer. He pulled her small frame into his strong body, hugging her tightly and repeating the words. That's not possible. I was not interested in her drama, so I left with the handkerchief. But as expected, the king entered my chambers within an hour. May I help you, Your Majesty? I asked. You told Rose that I would take another concubine after I get tired of her? Why are you doing this? This is very unlike you, Brownin. Oh, Aldrich, this is so exhausting. Of course you'll take another concubine. Have you ever heard of another king who has broken his vows with only one? Listen, I may have spoken out of turn, but Rose insists on interfering with my life. I don't know why, but she wants to be my friend. Can you even fathom how difficult it is for me to know of her existence, never mind having to see her, speak with her, and tolerate her? How would you feel if you had to befriend my lover? How would you— I couldn't even complete my sentence as Aldrich strode and shut my mouth with his hands. His face reddened in anger. Bronwyn, he growled. Have you taken a lover? Why would you ask that? I retorted as I removed his hand from my lips. You just said it yourself. How would I like to have to befriend your lover? I stepped away from his grip. Every muscle in Aldrich's body was strung with tension, and it seemed to take every ounce of his self-control not to reach out for me and take me in his arms again, to make me his. He was jealous. It felt good to know I still wielded that sort of power over him. To dispel his emotions, Aldrich began pacing the room. Then he left the room. My eyes swelled with tears. What have we made of our marriage? But it was clearly not my fault. He was the one who brought in the third wheel. I had been crying into my pillow when I heard a tap on the glass of my window. Wiping the tears from my eyes, I looked up to find the midnight hawk hovering just outside. My heart leapt, and I rushed to the casement to swing it open, whereupon the bird flew into my chambers and landed softly on my bed. Oh, my dear, sweet bird, I have missed you. As I dabbed at my cheeks, the feathery creature peered at me with its large eyes, studying me closely. So you have a message for me? I sniffled. It was silly, but I felt that the only thing in the world that would bring me comfort at this moment was more of my secret correspondence. To my surprise, the midnight hawk nodded as if it understood my question, then held its leg out to me. Smiling, I gave it a gentle pat, and then untied the note it revealed to be there. It was a short but efficient message once again, and yet the words of the stranger, whom I had neither face nor name for, lifted the heaviness from my mind. The bird will be named Majesty as you wish, but keep in mind that he is a male. Oh, you're a boy? My apologies, I didn't know, dear sir. But now that I have named you Majesty, I don't think I can call you anything else. The name is stuck in my mind, I'm afraid. Will you be terribly offended? The bird blinked at me for a moment, apparently resigning itself to its fate. Smiling and wiping away the last of my tears, I gave the handsome creature another pat before heading to my desk. Majesty followed me closely, of course, and watched as I took out a small sheet of parchment paper and wrote my reply. I didn't know he was a male, an unexpected surprise. Good men are so hard to come by. I rolled up the note and tied it to Majesty's leg, glancing at the calendar. The winter solstice celebrations were just around the corner, and the guests were due to start arriving tomorrow at the palace. Would I finally get to meet the Midnight Hawk's master? Despite myself, I blushed at the thought. The next morning was terribly busy, as it was my duty to greet the endless arrivals from lands far and wide. Your Majesty, Countess Eliza whispered into my ear as we stood outside of the facade of the Imperial Palace. Look at the next carriage. Turning my gaze outwards, I saw a beautiful and regal string of horses approaching, pulling someone of special magnificence. "Who do you believe it is?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral, though I had my own secret hopes. "I believe it's the emissary from the Celestial Isles. Perhaps their king, but perhaps their prince. Your Majesty, their Prince Henry. I hear he is the most handsome man on the continent." I pretended not to listen to them. They all rushed to the corner and continued their whispers, which, by the way, I could hear. "They say not to look him in the eye, lest he be cast under his spell. Will he be the heir to the West, since the king has no children? Hush, Prince Henry is a womanizer. We should all keep our distance unless we want to land in trouble." I nodded discreetly as I listened to the whispers of my ladies-in-waiting. The Celestial Isles was a country of great military power, virtually equal to that of my own empire. However, in terms of wealth, it was the richest in the world. Where there is wealth, there are rumors, and I had heard my fair share. I was not sure what to believe, though. However, something was strange, because even at the mere thought of this man, I felt that familiar fizz of electricity coursing through my body as though I knew him, as though he already touched me. My heart skipped as I considered this possibility. I was still a married woman, whether Aldrich treated me as such or not. The ornate carriage pulled up. The insignia on it certainly looked to be from the Celestial Isles. I had to make a good impression, as they were our closest ally, but historically there had been times when the Celestial Isles had also been our greatest enemy. I watched as a footman opened the carriage door, admitting a man into the sunlight. The prince. Prince Henry was the much younger brother of the King of the Isles, and normally shouldn't stand to inherit the throne. However, he was rumored to be second in line, as the king had no children, despite already having a queen and 3 official concubines. As the prince ascended the steps, the political ramifications of meeting him ran wild through my mind, but all time seemed to stop as he alighted before me. I had often heard rumors about how handsome Henry was, but I saw now that even they didn't do the man justice. He was tall, strong, and moved with impressive athleticism. Perhaps it was the cloak he wore, or perhaps the sunshine or his blonde hair, but he seemed almost to emit his own light. At least he did to me. "Prince Henry," I greeted with a small curtsy. "I am Queen Bronwyn. Welcome to the Kingdom of Elysaria." I hadn't expected it, but instead of speaking or bowing, Henry took my hand, bent upon one knee before me, like a knight swearing a vow of loyalty, and placed a delicate kiss on my fingers. I had knighted many men, and many had sworn fealty to me, but the knights never failed to lower their eyes, while this man held my gaze captive as he kissed me. My breath hitched in my throat as his lips grazed my skin. "It's an honor to meet you, Majesty." Wait, did he just call me Majesty instead of Your Majesty? I was confused. Maybe I misheard. I fought to regain my composure, forcing my expression into one of dignity, born through years of princess training. "It's an honor to meet you as well, Prince Henry." He smiled softly. "I've heard nothing but good things about the Imperial Palace of Elysaria. I see now that it is indeed very beautiful. Thank you. I hope you will find it pleasing." Prince Henry's eyes squinted into a smile as he looked at me. "Oh, trust me. I am already pleased. I don't know if it kind of made me blush." I greeted a lot of guests that day, but I couldn't forget Prince Henry's face as I returned to my chambers. As soon as I entered, I heard a knocking sound on my window. It was Majesty, rapping upon the thin pane of glass with his beak. I rushed to meet the midnight hawk upon the windowsill. Majesty immediately held out his foot, evidently eager to deliver the latest note, which read, "I have arrived at the Imperial Palace. Do you know who I am?" What? I was in awe. He was already here? My secret correspondent? Mentally, I scanned through all of the faces I had greeted earlier, but nothing stood out to me. It was difficult to pinpoint one person from the abundance of guests. I didn't even know if these notes came from a man or a woman, if the writer was young or old, or what rank in society they held. It was almost impossible to determine Majesty's owner without further clues. I took up my quill. "I do not know who you are, but do you truly know who I am?" I was not sure if they knew me, and that the first note, the one that still made me blush, may have been a fluke. I was one of countless people living in the palace, and Majesty's master couldn't be sure to whom the bird was delivering his letters. As soon as the hawk saw me rolling the little parchment once more, he hopped to my side. This little bird seemed quite clever. Can it be a magical bird that was sent just for me? I wondered. He does seem quite devoted to me, but it has to be a fluke because magic hasn't been seen in these parts for generations. Maybe I wasn't thinking straight. I tried to shake off that unnerving feeling. Having tied the note to the bird's leg, I stroked his head once again. "All right, Majesty, it's time to fly once more. Can you take my note back to your master?" Opening his half-closed eyes, the hawk stretched his wings and leapt out of the window at my command. I was already sorry to see him go. After a few moments, Sir Artemis knocked at my door. "Your Majesty, Prince Henry wants to see you." I looked up in surprise at Sir Artemis. "Prince Henry?" "Yes, Your Majesty. He seems to have a certain request for you, and only you." Despite the pleasant tightening in my stomach, I couldn't deny the request. Sir Artemis escorted me to Prince Henry's chambers. As I stepped inside, Prince Henry was standing at his window with his back towards me. He must have felt my gaze upon him, for Henry suddenly turned and kneeled before me. I knew he awaited my acknowledgement, but I needed a moment to calm the beating of my heart. "You are very kind to kneel, Prince Henry, but courtesy demands only a small bow," I said with a smile. "I don't mind kneeling in front of you, my queen." I didn't know what to feel, but his words were enough to make me blush. "Now, Prince Henry, what can I do for you?" I tried to change the topic, and he gave me his killer smile, as if he sensed my nervousness. "My lady, I was hoping that you could show me the palace. I would like to familiarize myself with it, but my sense of direction is sadly lacking, and I'm afraid that I will get lost. Prince Henry, such a request is a little unusual, and I have a great deal of work to do. Perhaps I could send for one of the footmen, or perhaps Artemis here." No, I want only you. I'm sorry? I wish only for the Majesty to show me." I had to stop myself from taking a step back. He had again called me the Majesty, not Your Majesty. Was this a simple failure of language between our two realms, or... The word hung in the air with a certain importance to it, all because I had been sending messages with Majesty the bird. Did that mean Prince Henry was Majesty's master? Did he think I was his secret correspondent? Was that first note about the burning of his soul? Oh no, it can't be. I quickly shook the thought from my mind. Don't be foolish, Bronwyn. There are thousands of guests here. He just made a silly blunder with a royal title. That is all. Prince Henry watched me carefully, eyes dancing across my features, awaiting my response. Sir Artemis, ever present, frowned. He likely thought that it was rude for the prince to have made such a request of me. However, letters or otherwise, I couldn't risk a political blunder. I certainly wasn't going to cause unnecessary trouble by denying the prince who might very well succeed to the throne one day. And if the guise of politics allowed me to spend time with this handsome stranger, then so be it. No one would be the wiser. "All right, let me get my cloak." We stepped out. The day was dark, with curtains of silvery rain hanging heavy on the horizon, but Prince Henry still seemed intent on his tour. "Have you seen the Silver Gardens?" I asked the prince, careful to keep a respectful distance from him as we strolled. I could feel Sir Artemis's gaze watching us closely from a few paces behind. Or, more to the point, watching Henry closely, wary of any threats to his queen. I kept my tone light, both for the prince's benefit and to signal to Artemis that I was safe. That garden is the closest to the Imperial Palace, and very few foreigners have been allowed to see it, due to its proximity to our political center. "I could take you." But I didn't get the chance to finish speaking. The sole of my boot slipped on the dampened limestone courtyard, stealing my balance. I braced for a hard fall, but the ground never came. Instead, I felt two strong arms tight about my waist. As I opened my eyes, I found I was gazing into Prince Henry's eyes. "My lady, are you all right?" He was close, mere inches from my face, and now that the sensation of falling had ceased, I became aware of his hands on the small of my back and the curve of my hip. Most intimate places indeed, but I couldn't blame the man. He had reached for me out of need, and I had clung to him. "The lady appears to be fine now, Prince Henry," Artemis spoke. Glancing at the old knight, I could see the warning in his eye, but also the shame of not getting to me first. As Henry also became aware of Artemis's veiled threat, he helped me back to my feet. Smoothing my skirts, I gave him a small nod. "Thank you, my lord. I'm quite well now." "Of course. You are, Majesty." He looked at me, assessing. Then he grinned. However, I insist on taking your arm. I'll not be blamed for war between our two nations because I let the Queen slip through my fingers." As I smiled, Henry gallantly offered me his elbow as we descended the long limestone steps away from the palace. And though I was perfectly capable of traversing those stairs myself on any other day, I couldn't deny that I wanted to feel his arm beneath my fingertips. The sensation did not disappoint. "But I was interrupted, Your Majesty." We both turned to the source of noise. It was Rose, rushing towards us, shouting from across the expanse of the great lawn. "Your Majesty, wait! I'll walk with you." Anger flared within me. Despite my best efforts to avoid her, the damned concubine still sought me out. I was sure that Prince Henry felt the tension string through my body, for he seemed to hold me tighter to him. But before he could ask me if I was all right, I turned to him. "Prince Henry, run." "Run?" With his brow furrowed in question, and Rose bearing down on us, I quickly turned to Artemis and whispered, "It is time to fulfill your oath to me, good knight. Save me from this witch while I escape." With that, I pulled hard on Henry's arm. He didn't need much encouragement to follow me, and we dashed along a long line of emerald cedars, grinning as we went, thrilled by the escape and the foolishness of it all. Evergreens and holly blurred past us as we ran, gasping and giggling around the hedgerows like children until Henry tugged on my arm and pulled me aside and out of sight, behind a tall row of laurel. Pressing ourselves into the greenery, winded and spent, we gasped for breath, grinning at each other. Did we lose her? In order to peer around the hedgerow, Henry placed a strong arm against the foliage, palm near my ear, and leaned across my body to look. He was careful not to touch me, but I could feel the heat of him, the proximity making me aware of every inch of him. It took all my control not to reach out and place my hand on his chest. "She's gone. That old knight of yours has done his duty admirably. It appears he is leading the woman back to the palace. I haven't seen a grizzled old warrior like that since the wars. Where did he come from?" "Artemis has been with me for as long as I can remember. From the moment I was pledged to be the future king's wife, he has been tasked with protecting me. And when was that? I was just a child. So Aldrich has always been destined for you and you to him. Until recently, until her." Henry turned back to me then, and it was plain from the expression on his face that he too had become suddenly aware of every inch of me, of our closeness. His gaze drifted to my lips, then quickly away. Neither one of us spoke, but the silence between us was thick with expectation. Commoners would have kissed without a second thought, but we were royals. Henry shook his head and looked away. "Do you not find me handsome?" My goodness, what a question. It's a question I need answering, for by now most people, especially women, will do just about anything for me. Is my face swollen today? I made sure to dress finely, and yet Majesty remains cold. I must have heard him wrong. With my mouth surely agape, I stopped and stared at him. Did he say this in jest? So blatant? So rude? Suddenly, Prince Henry stopped fiddling with his cravat and burst out laughing. "My apologies, Majesty, but I needed to lighten the mood. That run-in with that woman soured you terribly, and I couldn't bear to see the frown on your face any longer. I just wanted to make you laugh." "Oh," I exclaimed, both relieved and now fighting a fit of giggles. "Goodness, you had me worried. You aren't incorrect, however. That woman makes me seethe." Seeing his success and making me smile, Henry glanced around the hedgerow once more, then offered me his arm again. "Shall we?" It appears that the coast is clear. Taking up each other's arms again, we continued our stroll. This time, very much alone. So, that woman. I suppose she is the king's rumored mistress? I noticed that the prince used the term mistress instead of concubine. This too was not typical of nobility, but it was a more accurate representation of Rose's status, and he obviously made the unflattering distinction for my benefit. I couldn't help but smile again. Seeing that his attempts at brightening my spirits were working, Henry continued speaking. "The king is a strange man. How could he look elsewhere for other women when the queen stands in front of him?" I turned my face away from him. It is a question I too have been asking myself as of late. It is a question you deserve an answer for too, my lady. "Thank you for your kind words, Prince Henry. There is no need to thank me. If he cannot appreciate you, then he's a fool who does not deserve you." Wow, he speaks so plainly. My first instinct was to be flattered, but then the rumors about his character suddenly came into my mind. Womanizer, manipulator, murderer? I glanced at Henry sidelong, and he suddenly looked like the type who only gave out compliments when it suited him and helped him to achieve his own ends. I dropped my hold on his arm. What happened, Majesty? I must return to my duties. I thank you for the stroll, Prince Henry. Enjoy the rest of your time in Elisaria. It is doubtful that we will see each other again. But as I strode away, he called after me. Majesty, would you grant me an invitation to the royal banquet on the last day of the winter solstice celebrations, as your guest? Once again, Prince Henry surprised me. Those present at the final solstice banquet were distinguished individuals of either high status or great achievement. It was a small and most intimate affair as far as royal occasions were concerned. Why, isn't it obvious? I reddened. Bronwyn, you fool. A moment of dalliance in the gardens, the mention of a concubine. And now every foreign dignitary thinks that you are desperate and available to bed. I rounded on Henry, red-faced and angry. I am not that kind of woman, Prince, nor that kind of queen. Yeah, I know. You are the one to negotiate diplomatic affairs at the most important political event on Elisaria's calendar. I only meant to strengthen ties between our two great nations. Trade, security, those sorts of obvious topics. Majesty, what did you suppose was so obvious? His tone was so even, so matter-of-fact, that I felt foolish for even having imagined there was anything between us. Embarrassment flared within me. Dear Lord Bronwyn, has Aldrich stolen your sense from you as well? I lifted my chin and leveled my gaze at the prince. Your invitation will be delivered to you shortly. Turning on my heel, I strode away, eager to be back within the palace walls. But as I retreated from the gardens, farther and farther away from Henry, I couldn't help but feel that I had somehow made a deal with the devil. The next day brought more guests to the palace, and the time passed quickly as I exchanged greetings with them. It wasn't until I retired to my chambers in the evening that I had a moment to catch my breath, but even that was short-lived as I found Majesty sitting on the windowsill, soaking wet and shuddering. I threw open the sash. My goodness, your master sent you in this rain. You poor thing, you're shaking. I gathered Majesty up in my arms, pushed the window closed, and carefully laid the heavy bird on the settee with a soft towel wrapped around him. Only when the midnight hawk was completely dry and soundly sleeping did I carefully pull the latest note from his leg. The handwriting was smudged by the rain, but thankfully, still legible. Then shall we make a bet? The one who finds the other wins. What was it that I'd written before? Ah yes, I had asked the sender who they were. A bet, I went to the desk to write my reply. What would you bet on? When I put my quill down, he shouldered off the towel and flew the short distance to my desk, perching on the heavy oak frame. Then, he extended his leg. No. You see the rain? I'm not sending you out in that. Slowly, Majesty lowered his leg, though he still eyed me with suspicion. You can sleep here tonight. With me, I announced, but in return, Majesty squawked. Oh, you silly thing. Is this because I am a girl and you are a boy? Well, don't worry. I won't peek. I said it in jest, but somehow I became more aware of the fact and made sure to undress out of sight. After my bath, I slipped into a silk dressing gown and returned to my room. I found Majesty lying on my bed, fast asleep. Could birds sleep on their backs like that? Evidently they could. Taking my chances, I tiptoed closer and slowly crawled into bed next to Majesty, careful not to make too much movement. Laying my head on the pillow, I kept still, amazed by the warmth emanating from his body, and I took the opportunity to study him. Majesty's feathers shimmered in the candlelight, so finely detailed they almost looked iridescent. When I peered too closely, the image seemed to shift, like a reflection in a pond disturbed by ripples. I thought I saw Prince Henry's image. Could this bird be... I rubbed my eyes, blaming exhaustion, and reached out to touch the bird, needing to discard my suspicion and prove that it was just a bird. My hand touched his feathers. Oh yes, Bronwyn, they are just feathers, plain and simple. You have gone mad after Prince Henry. That's why you are seeing him all around. Foolish, I told myself, and rolled into bed. But as sleep tugged at me, a strange sensation lingered on my fingertips, one I'd only felt a handful of times before, like when I touched Henry today. I tried to close my eyes, as my thoughts were really wandering too far off. But as soon as my eyelids closed, I heard it. Tomorrow, my lady, under the candlelight and songs, you'll be mine. My eyes flew open. What? Had the bird just spoken? No, impossible. I must be dreaming. Oh God, what was happening to me? I'm probably overtired. I should sleep. I looked at Majesty for the last time before covering myself in pillows so as to block my sight and gearing. I have really had enough for tonight. I woke up the next morning to find Majesty gone. I saw that the window was slightly ajar. He must have let himself out. Clever bird, I muttered, and got out of the bed. It was a big day today. Finally, the winter solstice celebrations are about to begin. I rang the silver bell, and after a moment, Countess Eliza entered. She smiled at me, then pulled the dress she had prepared for me from the wardrobe. It's the first day of the festivities, Your Highness, so we must all look our best. For an event like this, my queen should stand out. The concept for this gown is the Queen of Snow. Seems appropriate, wouldn't you say, Your Majesty? The dress was breathtaking. Once I had been fastened into the dress and had my makeup on, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I really believed that I came from a country of snow. You look ethereal, Your Majesty. Thank you, Eliza. As I stepped out, I found Aldrich waiting for me just outside. I was surprised. Why was he suddenly acting like the old days? He stood as I approached and gave me a gentle smile while extending his hand for me to take. I hesitated before reaching out for him. For, after all of our years together acting as one, I suddenly didn't recognize the man before me. I wondered what was going on in his mind. Did he wish that he could enter the banquet with Rose on his arm? Was he here just because of the royal protocol? Above all, now that he had Rose, did he find even his wife beautiful anymore? But anyway, I was pleased to see that he seemed to be in full control of his emotions today. That was something, at least, and so I too put a smile on my face and reached for his hand. Bronwyn? He spoke with that intoxicating voice of his. Honestly, he still had an effect on me. I didn't want to look up. If I did, I was sure I'd fall for him again. Bronwyn? He called my name again. I heard you, Aldrich. What do you want? But when he didn't answer, I forgot myself and looked up into his face, only to see the shadow of pain darkening his features. Did he still love me? As his eyes met mine, he quickly regained control of his emotions, but he gripped my hand tighter. Nothing. Are you ready to face the hordes? Oh yes. As long as the Grand Duke Lavilla stays away from the brandy, I'm sure I'll be fine. It was our internal joke. Aldrich grinned, knowing of my dislike for the Grand Duke, and hand in hand, we turned towards the great doors to the ballroom. After gazing upon the scene in front of us, Aldrich raised his hand, and everyone bowed in response. This sight never failed to inspire me. Seeing my subjects celebrating along with all of my political acquaintances always made me smile. However, this year something was wrong. Rose. She stood in the very center of the ballroom, surrounded by a host of foreign nobles. All the pride that I had mustered to walk into the ball, head held high, swiftly collapsed like a castle of sand. My husband was bedding another woman. I struggled to keep the smile upon my face, but I found it difficult to breathe. Calling upon my greatest skills as a queen, outwardly I kept my composure. But inwardly my mind whirled. Aldrich was beside me, but within a second he parted ways with me as Rose caught her attention. I could see the guests murmuring about their relationship, but Aldrich didn't seem to care, as if he was completely under Rose's spell. I didn't want to think about it anymore. I grabbed 3 back-to-back goblets of mead from a passing tray, and downed them all in single gulps. It's time to dance, I announced, probably with more vigor than was strictly necessary. But the alcohol was doing its good work, and I didn't care. The ladies around me giggled nervously and drifted off to find a dance partner. The first dance was the most meaningful. Tradition dictated it belonged to the king and queen. Since our marriage, Aldrich had always claimed that dance with me. But this year I had a feeling I knew who he'd choose. And sure enough, from the corner of my eye, I saw Aldrich reaching for Rose's hand from amongst the crush of guests who surrounded the king. Laughing at my twisted destiny, I signaled to the musicians to prepare the opening waltz. I was crying inside, but kept my chin high as I strode across the throne room. The only person who could ask the queen for the first dance was the king, since no one else would ask me to dance anyway, and in order to preserve what little dignity I had left, I thought it better to leave the room altogether. But before I reached the door, I felt a prickling awareness on my neck. When I spun around to face this threat, I found Prince Henry close on my heels. He extended his hand to me. "Majesty, would you kindly do me the honor of this dance?" I was sure that my mouth fell open in surprise. Around us, the nearby nobles renewed their whispering with a greater fervor than ever before. Is Prince Henry really asking the Queen for dance? They say that he is a womanizer. He mixes with thieves and murderers. I heard that he has to drink an elixir to keep his face looking so handsome. Well, no surprise. Even the Queen cannot help but look at that face, another one whispered. Honestly, at this point, I didn't care about these rumors. I wanted to say yes to Henry, both to punish Aldrich and, if I was being honest, for my own selfish reasons. I was done with everything. If he could keep a concubine and still look me in the face, I could at least dance with a prince. I rested my green gaze upon the prince and gave him my answer. Very well. Upon taking Prince Henry's hand, he smiled broadly and led me to the dance floor as the whispers increased. How many women does he have on the go this time? Is he after the Queen of Elysaria? Why could Prince Henry not ask me? I would die just to be held by him once. A princess sighed. Before taking up our positions, he whispered playfully into my ear. Just like you ignored them, I promise to ignore if you step on my foot. What? I giggled. Oh, how much I love his ability to make me smile even in the gloomiest moments. How little you think of me, Prince Henry, for every queen is trained in the art of not stepping on foreign dignitaries' feet, unless they deserve it. He chuckled mischievously at my jest, then led me in a wide sweep of the dance floor, showing off for all to see. I could feel every eye upon us, but most especially Aldrich's. He glared at Prince Henry as though he had stolen something of his. What a fool the king is, I thought. Did he really expect that he could discard me and that I would simply be waiting for him to crawl back to me whenever it suited him? In a small show of defiance, I gave Aldrich a hard stare. He stared back, bit ignoring his stern expression. I turned away to smile at Henry and placed my hands upon Henry's strong shoulders. Good. Henry murmured into my ear. What do you mean? The way you're looking at me. Looks like you love my attire. Sorry, I didn't get you. Oh, I mean you didn't pay much attention to me yesterday, so today I made sure to dress finely for you. That crooked smile broke across his face again the moment I realized he was teasing me once more. Before I could respond in kind, the music began, and we started our whirl around the floor. The throne room had transformed into a kaleidoscope of color, with all the couples dancing, and of course, dancing amongst the other guests, Aldrich and Rose. Prince Henry must have noticed the change in my expression when we waltzed past them, for he pulled me in closer and whispered into my ear. At this moment, do not think about anything, not even your husband. I glanced up at him in surprise, but people will talk. He nodded, then twirling me around, pulled me in close once more. People will always talk. It's how they brighten their dull lives, by concerning themselves with the business of others. Maybe he was right. My life couldn't be just about my husband's scandal. As we continued to dance, I considered all of the rumors I had heard about Prince Henry, and suddenly wondered if I was giving them too much credence. Without even thinking, I found myself pulling close to him so I could whisper back into his ear. Noted, Prince Henry. But what about the rumors about you? Do they also not bother you at all? No, they don't. But do you believe those things about me? No, I don't believe them, but I find them really weird. Which one do you find the most weird? He asked with a sly grin. Don't make me say it. Come now. I cannot pass up the opportunity to hear a queen speak of sordid topics. Okay, Prince Henry, I retract my statement. I believe at least one of the rumors. Which one? That you are very stubborn. Prince Henry burst into laughter. Well then, perhaps the other rumors are also true. How do you know I'm not a womanizer? That I don't fraternize with black-hearted pirates? Or that I killed my infant nephews just so that I could secure my own reign over the Celestial Isles? I hesitated before answering, staring into the fathomless depths of his eyes. I can see it in your face, Prince Henry. You may have secrets, but not those. Henry looked taken aback and stared at me as though I had discovered something about him. He struggled to form a response, but was saved by the music coming to an end. He busied himself with the customary bow to my curtsy. What had he been about to say? I opened my mouth to ask, Prince... But I didn't get to finish my question, for suddenly Aldrich appeared in front of me. His eyes were full of unidentifiable emotions. Enough, my queen. Now you dance with me. Your husband. My queen. Had Aldrich really just called me that? He hadn't used those words since Rose arrived. Since he made it painfully clear that I no longer mattered. He had always been formal, distant. And now, here he was, claiming me in front of the entire court. Why now? Was he jealous of what he saw between me and Henry? Was this some reaction to that fleeting moment we shared? Or was he just playing another game, the way he always had? Trying to keep control, trying to keep me tethered? As I placed my hand in Aldrich's, my fingers brushing against his, a chill ran through me. Something had changed. I didn't know what it meant, or what was coming next, but I could feel it. Something was unraveling. And this dance might be the beginning of it all. What game had just begun on the ballroom floor? And what part was Queen Bronian supposed to play? Know more about the mysteries of the magical hawk, the queen, the king, and his concubine.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Pocket FM.
To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.